Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Syed Murtuza, Public Works Director for the City of Burlingame. Welcome you all to the Broadway Grade Separation public meeting to discuss aesthetics. This is a online meeting, so we have some rules to go over. I'll call Stephanie Brewer, our management assistant, to go over the rules.
Hi there. So tonight we're utilizing the Zoom webinar platform to conduct this public meeting. This meeting is being recorded and is also streaming live on the City of Burlingame's YouTube channel. At the conclusion of this presentation, the public will have an opportunity to provide feedback verbally or through an online survey. If you wish to verbally provide comments, we request that you use the raise hand feature at the close of the presentation. We will call your name when it is your turn to speak. In anticipation of the number of public comments, the moderator will limit speakers to 3 minutes each. Directions on how to complete the survey of aesthetics and landscaping preferences will be given at the end of the presentation. Additionally, a recording of this meeting will be available roughly 24 hours after the close of the presentation tonight. And that's it.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Rob, for putting that screen on. Before we get into the details of the meeting, I would like to, you want to put the next slide over? Thank you. No, just go back to the second slide. Great, thank you. So before we will do the introduction, and again, as I said, I am Syed Murtuza, Public Works Director, City of Burlingame. I'll ask the rest of the team member to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. I'm Art Morimoto. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Burlingame.
Andrew?
Sorry. This is Andrew Wong, Senior Engineer with the City of Burlingame and also a Project Manager for the Broadway Grade Separation Project.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Brewer. I'm a management assistant with the City of Burlingame, and I provide administrative support to the project team.
I am Alex Asanas. I'm a senior project manager with Caltrain, which I'm the project manager for this project.
Good evening. My name is Navi Dhaliwal, and I'm the Government and Community Affairs Officer for this project.
And I'm Rob Himes, project manager for Mark Thomas. Mark Thomas was hired to design the project. Thank
you, Rob, and the rest of the team. This meeting, there will be a lot of discussion here and the project overview, which I'll go over in a minute. But a very important thing to remember is that there is a comment card. Make sure you provide your comments. There will be a link. There is a link on the screen you see. There will be as a survey to the presentation with the PDFs of the slides and everything that you can actually view and provide your comments as part of that. And the deadline to provide comments is on July 20th, but that's not the only opportunity for you to do that. There will be opportunity to provide comments even at the City Council in case if you didn't get a chance. But we strongly encourage you to provide comments through the survey as well as through this presentation. More importantly, it is worthy to note that the meeting tonight is about the landscaping and aesthetic elements of Broadway. It is not about the design. The city has had held several meetings in the past several years, going back to 2014, 2015, and city has collected many comments about the project, the details, the objectives, and all that. So all of those comments have been incorporated or have been looked at, evaluated, and addressed as appropriately. So with that said, I would like to go over the general overview of the project. And here's you see on the screen, the project overview essentially is that the project is Broadway grade separation, and it is located at Broadway to separate the rail crossing and the roadway, and also to build a train station. the scope, the limit of the project is it starts a little bit north of Oak Grove and goes past Broadway to, I would say, close to just short of Millbrae train station within the city limits in Burlingame. And it starts at a level of the conforming level at Oak Grove, and then raises up to an elevation that fully separates the street, the road, and the vehicles on the road, and then conforms back near the northerly border of the city of Burlingame. Now, the project, as we all know, there are approximately 104 trains that go in each direction, and there's a lot of traffic issues. We know that there's a traffic jam in the morning and evening peak hours, and there have been several direct train and vehicle collisions. And the purpose of this project is to address the safety and also to improve the mobility for all modes of transportation. The project goal is also to improve the pedestrian crossing as well as the bicycle crossing, and provide a separated bike crossing. Those are some of the goals of the project, which I will have Rob go over in detail. Again, overall goal is to improve the mobility, as it's important to note that without doing this grade separation, there will be more problems with terms of traffic congestions and east-west circulation and safety, because there will be more trains added as part of Caltrain goals, as well as the high-speed rail project. So with that being said, Rob, do you want to go over the next slides, or do you like?
Sure. Yeah, I could do this because this is what's going to be shown on the site plan, which is the next slide. Like Syed said, thank you very much for the intro. We are going to be grade separating the rail over the roadway. There will be a new station which will have access points, and I'll show you where those access points are. There's a park and ride station just between Carolyn and the tracks just south of Broadway. There'll be two. In order to build it, we need to get the existing tracks out of the way. So we're going to be rerouting the existing tracks just to the left side of Carolyn, all the way up outside of the limits of raising the tracks. And then we'll have the train over on these temporary tracks while we build the facility, and then we'll route them on to their final location. And then, like Syed said, it's not just about cars and trains. We've put a lot of improvements in for bikes and peds and connecting, and we've had discussions already, if you were at the Teaspoon meeting, about those new connections. So I want to show you what the site plan looks like. What you're looking at is there's this kind of this, I don't know what it is, maroon color or pink color, shows the raised embankments bringing the track up and over. What you see in the lighter gray color is the actual station platform. And then you'll see that the park and ride lot here between the tracks and Carolyn, just south of Broadway, that'll accommodate over 50 vehicles. And then plus what you're also seeing is a substantial amount of trees. Each California will now have a new parkway strip that'll have mature trees in there, large trees ultimately with smaller trees and shrubbery along the walls to help shield the wall. The locations where you enter into the station are shown here with the red dots, and the red arrows show you how you would get into the station platform underneath, and then either up the ramps on each end or through 3 staircases, depending on where you're coming in. And then since this project had started, the city of Burlingame has approved a bicycle ped master plan, which includes 2-way pathways for bicyclists that run along here in red. And so those have now been incorporated into the project. So I want to talk now, because the main focus of the meeting is the aesthetics. And we've got our inspiration as to what the proposed design is going to be with your input, just based on architecture that's around the city and close by to the project. So whether it's concrete colored structures, more traditional gray colors, or whether it's arches, whether it's a historic arch or stations nearby, we've pulled those elements and tried to incorporate them here into the design. What you're going to see is renderings. You know, they're not 100% perfect, but you'll see that they look, you can visualize what this is going to look like based on these renderings. And we've produced renderings at these 5 different locations in the direction that's shown with the red arrows. And the renderings also understand that we're at 35% design. We still have to go 65, 95, and 100. And so there will be more opportunities to provide input, but also understand that these things will change as we get further into design. But we're hoping that this meeting gives us the basis of what the community wants as we move forward. So the first angle is off of Broadway. We're going to be looking across Broadway and kind of to the southeast in California. And so the existing, I'm showing each one of these locations, I'm showing what the existing looks like, so you can kind of get your mind as to, oh, I recognize this, I know where this is. But this, you could see the at-grade crossing is there about in the center, and we're looking at Maverick Jacks kind of straight ahead. So the proposed project, again, raises the rail, puts a station platform up on top that's about 875 feet long. It has the access in, but you'll see here that we're showing the wall types, the landscaping, and also the structure up and over Broadway. I want to remove the trees just temporarily here on the left-hand side to give you a better view of what the arch would look like along the walls. We're also looking at a straighter section. The arches, we're proposing that these are arched walls, but there's going to be situations as we get closer to the ground where an arch just doesn't make sense. And so we would be converting to some type of straight edge wall later on in the lower profile areas. The next view is straight on to Cadillac Way. And I don't know if you attended the city council meeting in early February, but we introduced this is a new entrance. So previously it was Broadway and then it was Carmelita. Now there's a new one across from Cadillac. And so this is what that would look like. Not much to see now, there's a container there, but what the project will look like with the opening, it's a passageway that allows you to go from one side to the other, but also enter into the station, which there's staircases to the left that allow you to get up onto the platform. The next view is Carmelita looking north, kind of east. And so the existing looks like this. You can see the Honda building in the background. That's Carmelita intersection there at California. There's the existing parking lot that there's now. And so the proposed aesthetics are going to be at the Carmelita is really making that the grand kind of main entrance into the station. You could see it has an overhang structure, has several staircases, and has a plaza area out in front. So the next one is at Broadway. So if you're on Broadway coming out of the business district heading towards 101, this is what it looks like. You have the Chevron on one side, the A&A gas station on the left-hand side. And so the structure will look like this. And another modification we made, because primarily of the bicycle ped master plan, is this used to be a 2-span structure where one structure would take you towards the freeway, one structure would bring you back. And then on the sides of the structure would be your entrance into the station platform. But we've introduced 2 additional spans on each side, which opens it up, but it allows for the bicycles and pedestrian bicycle pathway to get through, which then ultimately goes to Cadillac and up over the overcrossing over the freeway. And then it also provides a much more open space for the entrance in and out of the station. Notice the arches. Arches is, you can see the 4 arches that run along the structure. That comes again from the historic arch, which is essentially right overhead from this picture, and a couple other locations. But one thing we wanted to ask, and is in one of the questionnaires, is, would you like a single arch like what's shown on the top and what was shown in the previous image, or something like a double arch? And you can see the double arch on the bottom side. And we have a lot of play in this area. So it's just, these are some options that we're looking at. The last view is along the multi-use path itself. And so it would look like this, where we have the boulevard trees on the left-hand side, and then we have smaller trees that run along the wall along with landscaping. This stretch here, even though there's some bicyclists in the far ground, this is a multi-use shared path that would continue actually north of Broadway for some distance. And it allows bicyclists and pedestrians to be on this path off of the roadway and separated by the trees. So when you download that questionnaire again, then you're going to be asked, what type of texture do you prefer on the wall itself? And so if you look in the top left, you see like a thin horizontal stacked block texture. If you look down below on the lower left, you'll see they're more stacked stone, but it has a smooth finish. They're much closer to the wall. It's much even plane. It's much more of an even plane. And then the third one is a stacked stone, which has a rougher texture to it, as you can see there. This wall is going to be made of concrete panels, and they're typically 10-foot long, maybe somewhere around 6 to 8 feet tall, and they stack as they're being built. And so they look like any one of these walls right here is how this would appear. So the next thing that you're going to be asked in the questionnaire is about the color of the structure. And so we've come up with 3 different types, just again for your consideration and comment. The first one, top left, is the gray. It's your standard concrete gray. This would tie in well with the 101 structure. That's a pure gray concrete type structure. The one in the middle is a two-tone coffee, is what we call it. So it's a coffee color that will be put into the recessed arches. So you can see there primarily on the left, you could see it within that textured area to be colored. And then the last one, number 3, is a uniform coffee where the entire structure and wall is to be colored. And the way we do this is, first of all, if it's concrete, it gets a anti-graffiti coating on it. If it's two-tone coffee, then it would be painted in the middle, again with a anti-graffiti coating on the top of it. And then if it was colored, it would be coffee, but these colors are stained into the concrete primarily. That's what we're looking at now, again with the anti-graffiti coating. And then this is the same 3 options, but now we're looking at Carmelita. So if you couldn't quite visualize it, or it doesn't look good on Broadway, then maybe we can look at it on Carmelita. So it's the same 3 options: gray, two-tone coffee for number 2, and then the entire structure for number 3. So that's my presentation. And the reason why we kept it fairly short is because it provides us opportunities to ask questions. And if we have time at the end, we can answer various questions. But I think the idea is to get these questions and comments out first. And then that gives us a guideline on how we're going to answer those and what we need to answer before the end of the meeting. So does this go to Stephanie, if there's anybody that has their hand raised?
Yes, so I see 28 attendees currently.
Okay.
And I have 3 hands raised. So I'm going to start with Adrian first.
Okay.
Adrian, you should be able to speak.
Yes, I can. Thank you for unmuting me. I definitely like the all coffee. I think it's just the least intrusive. But my chief and primary comment is that you just spoke to graffiti coatings, and really all the I guess vandal accessible surfaces, such as they are, ought to be covered with a grid of like wires or some kind of structure, stainless steel cables, and then grow vines. That is the best graffiti, and it actually looks much better than exposed concrete. But it's just a certain Caltrans sound walls and certain other parts of Caltrain, such as in parts of San Carlos, where you do have similar walls. When those are encrusted with growth, plant material, whether it be potato vine or some low maintenance tough vine that just covers the concrete naturally, that is not only aesthetically more pleasing, it provides some greenery, and softens the whole thing, looks much better for the community. And I have never seen a graffiti artist hit those plants. They just don't do it. So that's better than any graffiti coating you can come up with. If you can cover those, all those, accessible surfaces with vines, I think you're, in the aesthetic department, going to come out way ahead. So that's my chief feedback at this point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I am moving along to Drew.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for this meeting. So a few thoughts. So I'm not a fan of these arch type design over the road. Kind of like, okay, I was in San Carlos a long time, and over time I feel like it's a lot of money spent to create these arches and they don't really do anything. And if I couple that with the previous speaker's thoughts with the vines, even better. I'm kind of like, I think of pouring it. A straight line's a lot easier than repeating these arches. And I'm somewhat separating the retaining wall part versus the bridge structure. So just, yeah. I think possibly over Broadway, like a double arch better. I think the problem I'm having with the arches a little bit, it just seems like slapped on, well, because there's arches over here, we need to do arches over there. There's not like, it's not there's not a reason for it other than some aesthetic. And I'm not against that necessarily, but I feel like part of great design is there's reasons for things and it's built in. So I think like on the walls or some of the texture on the walls, some of it's like in part, in some places, a design in the wall that's designed into the pattern that's like makes each section somewhat different, or it's like blocks. So you get like, I'm going to use words, but I'm not meaning that. It's just like there's a plan of a tree like designed in the wall or stuff. And I'm not saying each panel needs to be designed specially, but some kind of pattern that it's just use that, leverage molds and stuff, and not the arches. I'm not a big fan of the tones necessarily either, though I think part because I don't like that color. Part of it, go back to San Carlos a lot, and over time how that's aged, and I walked under that, ridden under that, driven under it and everything, and versus like a Belmont, and I'm kind of like, I don't know that it does a lot. I think different colors might help, and like if the two-tone, like over the road, if it was the double arch may allow there to be like two tones, and so then you get some more creative color, and it's just not, instead of gray, we've got this paint color. Like, what's the purpose? And I think that's what I go back to some stuff. And then just seeing these rendering, very helpful, but I know this about aesthetics, but I'm going to expand it slightly. I think 90-degree corners, there are blind spots. There's bicyclists on that pathway. I look at that, and with all the trees and the lights are in the trees. And I think a little work needs to be done on that, because bicyclists will be going faster and someone walks out, they're going to have some quote accidents. I don't want to get all scary, but just things to make 90-degree hidden corners, so they're not like, if we can just do stuff, and I won't keep going on the details. I can do that if I get another round and stuff, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna move along to Richard.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to comment is, why is it an embankment structure versus a aerial structure like BART has in Berkeley and Oakland? The thing is that I think what you're creating is like Burlingame's Berlin Wall there, a lot, because you have to elevate that for a substantial portion on either side of Broadway. And I think I read just this last winter that the city had said that they were to save money, they're going to raise it further so they wouldn't have to depress the roadway any. And you end up with an even higher wall, and you separate the two parts of the city. My feeling is with an aerial structure, at least it's open, and then you can it'd be similar to what you're doing at the streets. And that's just my comment, is I just think having a aerial structure will look a lot better. You don't have all this concrete there. And I think it also, why even have a embankment structure? Because they're electrifying the whole system. And my understanding was that they could run light rail trains. Why do you need, this heavy embankment structure when you're going to be running light rail cars like BART or Muni on this, and you could easily get away with having an aerial structure. So that's the other aesthetics I'm not that concerned about. I mean, having lots of trees and so on is fine, but you're going to create this big wall similar to what's down in San Carlos and other areas on the peninsula that separates the two parts of the city in that area. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to Terry.
Hi there. Excuse me. So I think this is a, great iteration of the plan. I do understand the compromises that had to be made because of cost. Before we were looking at an upper and lower type layout, and I think this does make more sense cost-wise because we could get it done sooner. But I wanted to say I love the bike pedestrian pathway. I think that's great. I don't know if there are plans to extend it all the way to the Millbrae station, but that's what people would love to have. And as far as the design, I really find the panels very plain and monotonous, no matter what kind of texture you have on them. I'm wondering if the architects could explore the idea of a pattern like the trees that we were able to negotiate with Caltrans on the freeway sound walls. Something like that I think would be much more appealing. I also believe that the argument about graffiti is a strong one, so perhaps trees and vines, something that would add a little bit more interest to the project. And other than that, I commend you for moving this project forward. We've been waiting for it for a very long time. Thank you.
Maria, you're next. Maria, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
I want to talk about the path for peds and bikes. Right now, you show trees on both sides of the path. I don't really think that's necessary. Maintenance, there'll be a lot of leaves falling. And then as the trees grow, they may start cracking the sidewalk. So I think one area of trees would be sufficient, either on the wall or on the other side, which kind of lines up with the street. Did you hear me?
Yes, sure did, Maria. Thank you.
Okay. And otherwise, it's great because in San Bruno, they had to dig below a little bit for the cars to go under. And the way you're doing it in Broadway, it's just straight. So it's fantastic. Super job. And as far as the colors, I like gray rather than a two-tone. Just gray all around is, I think, is really appealing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I do not see any more hands raised. Rob, did you want to address any of the questions?
Sure, I could.
Sorry,
I
someone else raised their hand.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to take the question or comment,
Sure,
or do you want
sure.
to address what we've gotten
Sure,
so far?
I think we're doing well on time.
Okay, so I see Roland. You're allowed to speak.
Thank you. This is Roland, and the last time I went to these meetings, they were in person, and I think Syed will remember me. My question is that what we apparently agreed on 2 years ago has completely disappeared. And let me explain to you what the issue is. is that I'm seeing a centerboard platform. I'm not seeing any passing tracks. And the issue is, as long as you have a centerboard platform and you're going to have freight traveling and track adjacent to that centerboard platform, you will never have level boarding. And level boarding is important because without it, you are adding in the region of 30 seconds to every stop. So it actually has some massive impact on the line. So I'm going to leave it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send some drawings to Syed to basically show a different way to go about this, whereby we're lifting 2 tracks at the time, and the platform actually hangs off those tracks, because you don't need massive berms and concrete and God knows what else to support passengers. You need that to support the trains. But the platform themselves can be lightweight. And if you look at it, a cross-section, what you're looking at is essentially a gull wing, and the platforms are the wings of the gull. It's a very elegant design. I don't think it's that expensive. And I'm really concerned that you're not considering, for 2 reasons, as I said. It's level boarding, which is very important. Actually, it has been a federal mandate since 2013. So essentially what you're doing there is illegal, unless you get some waiver from the FRA. And then the fact that freight and trains that pass through the station that do not stop, that pass through the station up to 110 miles an hour, don't go anywhere near passengers waiting on the platforms. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Roland.
Thank you, Roland. Appreciate your comments. And I wanted to let you know that there has been a lot of discussion between city and Caltrain folks regarding the platforms. And I'm sure Caltrain folks are here listening to you, and your comments are well taken. Thank you.
So Rob, I don't see any additional hands at this time.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for your comments. And it sounds like our renderings were good enough to where we could start to get these types of comments, because that's what this meeting is all about, is we want to know the feedback. We want to know what modifications we can make and consider moving the project forward. And so things I heard, like for Adrian talked about plantings on the walls. That's certainly something that we've talked about before. You know, we can take a look at it again for sure. Drew talked about not a big fan of the arch type because, you know, it's expensive. It is more expensive to put the arch along the wall. Like I did show, there was a straighter section that is probably used more often. But again, this comment is well taken, and it's something we're certainly going to take a look at. Designing into the wall with a various pattern, that's certainly something we can look at. It has been done before. It's certainly done along freeway segments and concrete cast in place type walls. The difference with this type of wall is you can still do the pattern. There will be joints within the pattern, so we have to be careful as to how this pattern looks so it doesn't look bad by having these line works in. There could be certain segments where we have to cast in place where we don't put the, you know, the wall, like I said, is like a 8-foot high by 10-foot wide panels that are put into place. But there could be segments where there's cast in place where we can introduce additional art through that. So that's certainly something that could be looked at. You know, the staining, you know, brings up a good point about the staining. The staining doesn't last forever. So that's something we want to consider. The concrete gray, as you know, can last a long time. I mean, all these structures are designed for many, many, many years. It is more maintenance to come in and reapply staining through there. So that's good. The 90-degree corners, we tried to shift the path out away from these locations. I mean, it doesn't show in detail what my graphic shows, but we took that into consideration. Again, it's another thing that we can certainly take a look at, making sure that we're opening up those views so it's not a dangerous situation. Richard talked about the embankment and, why is everything up on embankment and why isn't it aerial? Aerial structures cost a lot. And this will be used for heavy freight, just like it was talked about from Roland. And so putting in a viaduct structure that can accommodate the weight of freight trains in addition to Caltrain, it's just very, very expensive. We can, certainly look at the cost ratio to that to see if there's opportunities for doing something like that. Richard talked about the embankment, the aerial structure. Okay, why is it higher? This you did read something. We went in February to City Council and brought design modifications. And the reason why it's higher, first of all, it's not significantly higher. It was 18.5 before, now it's 20.5. So it's 2 feet and it's only in the station platform area. Everything else comes down to the consistent grade that it was before. But the changes are, we've changed the structure type to be a thinner structure and we raised the tracks 2 feet. So we don't have to lower the roadway, which is what I think it was Maria mentioned. That was a nice design change. And what it does is, when we were lowering the roadway, there's tidal flows, there's groundwater that's under there all the time, and it's very difficult to construct. And the fact that we were trying to do half and half, raise the rail and then lower down the roadway 6 feet, we'd have to close Broadway for estimated a year. And so just the traffic impacts alone and potential business impacts from Highway 101 trying to get to the Broadway Business District was a big deal. And so by making this change, and yes, it is 2 feet, but 2 feet out of 18.5 feet is not significant given the benefit that it provides for the city moving forward. And then we talked about gray, and then Roland's concerned about level boarding. This is a good comment, and Caltrain is looking at level boarding in the future. And they've asked us, like, this design accommodates future level boarding, all the ramps, all the staircases, the weight of the structure, so we can add additional weight to the structure to accommodate all the level boarding. So that's one of the Caltrain requirements when we're designing this. Will it be built day one when this is being built as level boarding? I don't know where we're going to be at that time with Caltrain, but certainly the design could be modified to accommodate that, and it's very flexible at this point. So, but one more thing I want to say is these are excellent comments. If you could please take the opportunity to, get on the website, which we're going to highlight again, and download it. It's a very quick questionnaire that's just pushing buttons and then adding some additional comments, but these are very good comments.
Thank you, Rob. Those are excellent questions and responses. But I repeat what Rob said, is that there will be a survey on the website. Please go take a look at the survey and provide your responses, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that your comments are not just made here at the meeting, but you take time to go through this survey and provide responses so we document them all together. And then another thing to note is that this meeting is being recorded and will be made available for folks to take a look at it again in case if they have any questions or if they have any other thoughts, that they can actually review the meeting. It will be available online. Team, is there anything else we need to cover?
I think just if you can hit what's next, understanding that this does go to the council near the end of the summer. I don't know if you want to talk about some of these timelines, but there will be multiple opportunities to continue to provide input.
Yeah, Rob, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and talk about what the project schedule looks like and where we are headed? Yeah.
Yeah, so as you can see here on the screen, so we are planning on going to the council to talk about your comments, what you provided, any modifications that have occurred because of the comments, to present to council at the end of the summer, probably mid-September is what I'm guessing. That's what we're trying to get onto that calendar. Then we'll also, in winter of 2023, you could see that, oops, I'm sorry, this is actually 2022. I just caught that mistake. I'll revise it when we put it online onto the webpage. But winter 2022, somewhere around November, December, January, in that area, we'll be going to the council again to give an update, because at that point we'll be at the 65% design level. Summer of 2023, 95%, and then spring 2024, 100%. So each one of these milestones, we'll be making an update presentation to the council. And then where to comment, and I'll just finish this off if you don't mind, Syed. Again, we're just emphasizing here again is the webpage. It's the www.burlingame.org/Broadway grade separation, all one word. And if you type that into URL, then it'll take you to the webpage. That's the city's webpage. And on there, you're going to see a PDF of this presentation, the comment card, or a comment, it's electronic comment card. And then about another day, that's how long it takes to get this recording onto that website. But then that'll be added. And that the comment deadline again is essentially a week from today at midnight. And then if you want any more information, there is the City of Burlingame. It's the www.burlingame.org, Broadway grade separation. Caltrain also has a website called www.caltrain.com/ all capitals BBGS. And if you have any additional questions, then you can email either one or both of these two email locations, Broadway grade sep at burlingame.org and capital BBGS at caltrain.com.
Rob, really quick, I do see a hand raised again. I don't know if you want to take an additional question. Looks like Drew has his hand up again.
Okay. Sure.
Drew, you can unmute yourself.
Hi again. Thank you for taking some additional questions. Just on this slide, wasn't why my hand's raised, but because you have it up, I think it's supposed to be www.caltrain.com/ I'm pretty sure there's a .com missing there on the website one. So.
Oh,
yes, that's correct.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Drew.
Since you're revising it anyway, maybe catch that. So, I think part of it, as a member of the public, I just want to thank you for having this public meeting, that there's some ability to ask questions or get some interaction. And I also, I think in the past I've said, I'm amazed at the great improvements that were made from initial to like 2 years to now, because it seemed like a black hole. So I'm impressed. Not many projects, I think, do that kind of jumps to be so much better these days. So it's just, as a taxpayer, as a member of the public, it's just like nice to see that happen. And so thank you for that. I would like to just ask that there's more community meetings where maybe some are in person. I know that's complicated, but I feel like it's hard. Like there's been this dearth of meetings. Yes, there's council meetings, but you're required to be these 2-minute segments. And some things need interaction so we can like iterate the idea, and then it still may not be possible, but at least it's understood instead of there's these assumptions. Well, I think they're talking about this, or I think they're talking about that. This is the time to do this versus once it gets to 65 or farther, the farther it goes, the harder it is to make any changes. That's what I learned from following these projects the last 10 years. It gets brutally hard to make even simple things that are better if they were caught earlier. So I just encourage to have some more just general community meetings where some discussions and things can happen. But I really appreciate this meeting. I appreciate the improvements. I'll stop at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Appreciate your thoughts and comments. We definitely have, as you know, we've been looking into holding in-person meetings, and we were almost ready to go live, then we have had several instances about outbreaks and what have you, and so we had to change our plans. But we're definitely looking to see how we can engage in-person, outreach and coordination with the public, and also provide a forum for folks that prefer to be online. And so your points are well taken, and when an opportunity becomes available, we'll definitely make use of that. Thanks again.
I have an additional hand raised from Adrian.
Okay.
Thank you again for taking some additional comments. I was a little surprised by the comment that the tinted concrete wears out or bleaches or something. I thought that's what the staff was saying, but it's a minor point. But I've used tinted concrete in home projects and things like that, and it hasn't been my experience that it changes color that dramatically, if at all. So, but regarding there was another caller that had a comment about why not more. Essentially, I think what he was asking for was more viaduct. And I do note that it feels like more viaduct was basically created by adding those 2 additional spans for bike ped on either side of Broadway. That gives the open and usable space increase, the more community connectivity that is associated with a viaduct. And so I do appreciate that it costs more, and especially because of the heavier freight to engineer it properly. But to the extent possible, I mean, you don't get something for nothing. So yes, it does cost a little more, but I would urge widening, just so they feel less claustrophobic, widening the punch through passageways that were shown in some of the illustrations. I think it was at Carmelita and other places, in a similar way, by just creating a little bit more horizontal space, because the community experience, it just feels safer and more welcoming. And to the extent possible, if you can extend viaduct sections further with available funding, and I know there is no available funding, so I know that that's a challenge, but from the enduring community experience, it is a better result. I know Redwood City, my hometown, is looking at elevating the line across all 5 remaining at-grade crossings and creating a new elevated 4-track station. So we're going to have similar issues and discussions and challenges here in Redwood City. But to the extent that I know in in Melbourne, Australia, they're doing some interesting grade separations. There's YouTube videos of the designs, but they're creating activated usable space underneath at stations on either side of the station, where the community feels connected, not separated. So that is the definite advantage of using pillars and stanchions instead of solid, what people often derisively call Berlin walls. So yeah, and I also, in your presentations going forward, it wasn't part of this presentation, but you may also want to get into maybe Caltrain territory, but what the platform designs or amenities. I think Roland commented about level boarding. Another major point of both aesthetically and for customer, I guess, convenience and comfort is what kind of shade or canopies are provided, and that is part of the design, right? If you have canopies or you just have little shacks, that really does make a big difference in how both the project looks and how comfortable it is to use. So stuff to consider for the future.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay.
Thank you. If there's no more hands raised, then I would like to, just to reiterate, unless Rob, you have something to say?
No. A lot of good comments.
Great. So folks, again, please remember to take the survey and send it in. And questions, please feel free to email them, and staff will review them and get back to you. All right. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.